I'm currently a co-executive producer of Wings of Fire, which is being produced at Netflix and Warner Brothers.
Yeah, and I'm Christa Starr. I'm also, besides being Dan's wife, a co-EP on Wings of Fire for Netflix and Warner Brothers, adapting the fantabulous series written by Tui Sutherland.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Tui, and I wrote the Wings of Fire series, and I'm so excited about the TV show.
I'm Emily, and I'm a reptile educator. My husband Ed and I run a reptile store, zoo, and store in Minnesota. We also run a reptile rescue in addition to that, where we deal with real life dragons, like bearded dragons that we often have for adoption. So we have the a wide array of reptiles and amphibians that we deal with on a regular basis.
That is quite the moment to capture, because I think we've all had that moments when we realize how other people see us. And because growing up, I idolized national park rangers. As a kid, we spent a lot of time in national parks, and they always knew everything. I mean, you could ask them any question, they could answer it on the spot. And so I just had this image in my mind of the all-knowing ranger. And then I'd been working for the park system for about 4 years, and we were doing a program with the local high school because the local gym teacher also taught science, and he was always dragging the class into the park and having them do citizen science. And I'm standing there answering their questions, and then it just hit me like a ton of bricks. They were looking at me in my uniform with the shiny badge on, and they were seeing that all-knowing park ranger, and I was not the all-knowing park ranger. I was a seasonal employee who barely knew what county I was in. And like, wow, that's a paradigm shift right there.
Yes, yeah, that's part of the journey. That you know, every time my daughter calls me mommy, I'm like, am I? Oh, I guess I am.
Yeah.
I can't call my mom and ask the question. She's calling me and asking, and I'm like, oh no. Oh, when did that happen?
Totally. Like every time I'm left alone with them, I'll suddenly look around and be like, wait, I'm in charge. I'm the boss.
Yeah, who put me in charge?
Yeah. Is this a good idea?
Yeah, I don't know about this.
It's something that young people need to understand, I think, that they don't. But I'm going to tell every young person that's watching this right now, every older person you see is a young person in an old person's shell.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Neil Gaiman writes about that in one of his books.
Oh, he does. Yeah.
The house at the end.
At the end of the lane.
Is that what it's called?
The ocean at the end of the lane.
That sounds right.
Ocean
and it's like he has a wonderful line in there that's almost exactly that. Yeah, it's like
big fan of Neil Gaiman. Always.
Yeah, it's so well put. I was like, it's one of those where you're just like, yes, exactly.
I know. He's got this amazing turn of phrase that I could never duplicate. One of my favorite lines of his ever is from one of the early Sandman comics, where if you don't know the story, you know, there's these cosmic forces, and one of them is death, and she's a cute young goth-looking girl in her human manifestation, and she has to basically take the soul of a little baby, and it happens, and he says, the baby speaks to her and says, is that it? Is that all I get? And she replies, you get what everyone gets. You get a lifetime. And just from that turn of phrase, I knew I was in love with this writer. I was like, that is the coolest idea. And he just can succinctly put a pin on so many human experiences. It's like, it's true. You get a lifetime. You get a lifetime. You get a lifetime. Whatever it is, that's your lifetime.
Yeah.
I love that.
Sandman was one of those books I read. There's certain books I pick up and I read them with this growing sense of trepidation, knowing that the ending is going to traumatize me, and also knowing that I can't stop reading.
Yeah.
It'll be very interesting to finally see that work adapted, which is an enormous challenge, I think, for many reasons. Will be very interesting. And now that we're adapting something too, we have even more appreciation of, you know, what that takes. You know, it's quite an undertaking, and you just hope you can do justice to the source material. It can't be a one-for-one retelling, but it needs to absolutely do the job of creating an intimate experience that's different from the kind we have when we read. But all those important turns, all those important emotions, you know, still need to be conveyed. It's just in a new way. And that's been a very interesting thing to try to accomplish. because a lot of this writing, I think, is so affecting because it's so intimate. And, you know, holding a book or a graphic novel is one of the most intimate experiences you can have. It's just you and, you know, the inside the head of these characters. So you're sort of in the skin. And now with something that's presented on television, you're put a little bit more in the third person, but you can achieve the same thing in moments for sure.
I just realized something. Clearly, Tui wrote Wings of Fire. You two were dragged in by your kid. I've kept my finger on any dragon-related media since I was 7. Emily, how did you get into Wings of Fire?
Actually, I was introduced by our fan base on our channel. So it started with a partnership with Audible, the audiobook company. They wanted to sponsor a video. And in order to do this integration or this integration of their brand into a 2-minute bit on our channel in a video, I had to choose an audiobook that I wanted to push. And I can't remember what I pushed at the time. I tried to pick anything that was like reptile related, and I chose something that was not Wings of Fire. It was, I can't remember, it was a long time ago. I can't remember which one I chose back then, but in the comments, I had so many people recommend that, oh, if you like dragons, you need to check out Wings of Fire. I'm like, oh, okay. And it's kind of embarrassing to admit, but at first, since I was so busy, I didn't have time to read or listen to Wings of Fire. But I'm like, sure, okay, yeah, I'll use book number 1, the prophecy. I'll use that for my next month integration with Audible. So I talked about, oh, I'm currently reading Wings of Fire. I'm currently on book 1 of the 13 that were out at the moment. And then, like, after I had integrated that into a video, and then people learned that I was supposedly reading or listening to Wings of Fire, I went to a reptile convention. This is like 2 weeks later. And someone approached me in the hotel that I was checking in at, and she goes, oh my gosh, what part are you at in Wings of Fire? And I'm like, oh no. I'm like, I just started, so no spoilers, of course. You can don't tell me, but I'm really enjoying it. And then once I was caught, I was like, I really should probably read this if I'm going to be incorporating 13 different books at the time into various integrations over time for when I'm partnering with Audible. So I started reading it and I'm like, holy cow, this is actually a really good series. And then I was hooked. So it was a combination of a suggestion from multiple fans and not wanting to get caught saying that I was listening to something that I wasn't. But I'm so glad that everything fell into place as it did, because it has been an amazing series.
Oh, thank you.
If Wings of Fire was a chocolate, you'd be like, yeah, I like chocolate. Sure, I'll try it. And then you're like, wow, that's good chocolate. And then you're like, this may be one of the best pieces of chocolate I've ever had. Then you're like, I can't stop eating this chocolate.
That is
I think you have to include in the metaphor the fact that somebody's handing you like 15 giant pieces of chocolate. And
yes,
like,
yes.
Eat all of these though, actually.
Yes.
You're like, I don't
Eating
want
the first one, you're like,
pieces of chocolate.
yeah.
So let me finish this one first.
One of those giant 10-pound Easter bunnies.
Yes.
Because I mean, I read all kinds of things, but I would feel daunted by starting a 13-15 book series. So I have no judgment for adults who are like, really? I am a very busy person. So
I was so excited when I started reading and I realized how many there were. And I was like, oh, yes, this is going to keep going for a while. Yes.
That happened to me
Exactly.
recently. I'm reading a time travel series that I just discovered there's like 9 of them, and I'm so happy.
Oh, which one?
That's cool.
Tui always gives the best book recommendations.
It's the Chronicles of St. Mary's. These are for grown-ups.
I read those, yes. I read those. Yes,
love
they are
them.
good.
They're so funny.
They are very funny and fun and quirky, and I love them. Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted something that was like very surprising. Like I never know what's about to happen. So
yeah, there was a trip that we were on a few years back with my family, and because they're very sporty people and I am not, I spent most of my time inside the hotel while they were out in the 100-degree weather. I read the whole thing during that trip. Everything that was out at the time, I read.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Is it quieter where you are now? Has it gotten better?
Oh,
over
yes.
there? Oh,
Yeah, I'm so sorry about that.
That's
No
all
problem.
good.
They said they would. I was like, I figured they'd be done by 4, and then that's when they showed up. So I was like, oh my god.
Kind of going back a couple minutes here, I too was very excited when I discovered that there were so many books in the series after having read the first one, and I actually had not physically read a single one. I've listened to all of them because what worked out really well was, sure, I was really busy with programs. And before COVID, I was doing like 350 programs a year. So there's a lot of driving. And I do some long distance programs. So I listened to all of them on audiobook. But I think I burned through all 13 books that were out at the time in about 3 months. So it was just constant Wings of Fire, which it was just wonderful. I actually started looking forward to driving to long distance programs because I got that much more time to be able to listen to the current book I was on.
They're very well done.
They're very well done.
Very well done and well read. Our daughter puts them on recreationally, and we're all like, yeah, let's, and we'll just jump to different books now and just enjoy different scenes, like popping in a movie and just looking at your favorite parts, So yeah, they did an amazing job translating.
Mm-hmm.
I will admit.
No, you go ahead. No, you.
All right, I will admit that since I kind of went in blind and not like having read any reviews, I wanted to go in like not having any biases at the beginning. So I read first book, it was great, followed Clay, and then started the second book, and I'm like, where's Clay? Everything's all about tsunami. Like, I'm so confused. And then I actually Googled it. I was like, did this whole series change? And then I discovered you just follow a different character each time. I was like, did Tui get sick of Clay? Like, is she writing it out? So, yeah, right. It took me a while to figure out that, every book you follow a different character. So then it became a game of who is this going to follow next? And then usually within the first couple sentences, you'd figure it out. And, yes, I get to follow this person, It was great.
Oh, yeah. I loved that moment of excitement when I picked up book 8. And I was like, it's Beryl! Yeah!
Yeah, that's actually that's something that I've always been interested in, is taking a story and telling it from one point of view, and then kind of flipping it around and telling it from another person. Like I really love that that's something that books can do, right? That you think you know someone, and then you get inside of them, or you get to see how one person sees them, and then how a different person sees them. And that's one of my favorite things about reading.
Like Dragon Slayer, right? Is the whole first 5 from the scavenger's point of view.
Right.
Which is fantastic.
Which is hilarious, because the whole point of writing them in the first place was what if the dragons got to tell their side of the story? And then I was like, go back and let the humans do theirs.
Ava DuVernay is producing Wings of Fire, and she really early on was asking if there was a non-traditional way we could come at the story. And could it be a Ken Burns documentary? Could it be a retelling of a historic events, or could it be told from these different point of views? Like, for a while we were thinking, it could be like a Rashomon or something, where you're telling the story from all these divergent points of view, and then you're realizing where they intersect and where they come together, which I still think would be an amazing way to interpret the story. The limitations of our amount of episodes and our time, even though it's a very generous amount of time we have, it's still a little daunting to do something of that scale. But I think that would be a really interesting way to come at the series, because I love any series that again, like you were saying before, everybody sees themselves maybe as the main of their own story, or tries to put themselves in a narrative construct to kind of get a sense of their lives. And the book does a very good job of really fully fleshing out every single character, so that there is no one character who's experiencing the story, or experiencing it from all these amazing personalities and points of view. And that's what really helps to make it such more of a rich world, and a dimensional world, and a layered world, and why you just fall in love with every single character. If we could, we'd make the whole show about Peril.
Yeah,
because we love Peril so much.
We would.
Everest, he has to go back in his enclosure soon. He wants to climb so bad.
And I actually have to go pick up our daughter from school, so I'm gonna have to take off. But
I'll stay in while we
stay
finish.
for a bit. Okay.
Yeah, because I know
I
you
just
still
wanna
have
say-
to answer those questions.
Yes, before I go, lovely speaking to you all. Excellent questions, Betty, that you have. So fun to get into the nitty-gritty of this with you, and I hope to see you all again very soon.
Yay, lovely to see you, Krista.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I take Emma in the morning, and she picks up Emma in the afternoon.
It's like that here too, because I sleep until noon, so my husband does all the morning stuff, which I really appreciate.
Yes, you have to delegate and share. Yep.
Yeah.
So if we got time for one more kind of technical question, when it comes to designing dragons, for my tragedy, I just completely separated them from physical reality, made them the energetic manifestation of different biomes, basically. And so they interact with the physical world basically through manipulating brain energy. So they're not, that way I didn't have any physical limitations. They just kind of appear however whoever they're interacting with sees them. And for my comedies, I just stuck strictly to what are the accepted limits of reptile physiology, kept them smaller, nothing too fancy. So how did you go about designing your dragons?
Yeah, please, Tui.
Well, I guess I was thinking about, you know, knowing that I had this whole world full of dragons and thinking about sort of the different biomes, the different habitats, and like what kind. So I say this a lot when I'm talking to kids, that I actually watched a bunch of nature documentaries, and that sounds hilarious to say I did like all this research for my dragon fantasy series, but I feel like I did, because I was like, I watched Planet Earth and I was like, what kind of dragon would live in the rainforest? Like, what did these reptiles have in the rainforest that I could give to my dragons? And like, you know, I watched one on crocodiles for the Mud Kingdom, and I tried a whole thing about monitor lizards to think about the night wings. And I was just really interested in like, what can I give to each of them so that they're distinct and that it has something to do with where they grow up? Because like another big theme of the series is like nature versus nurture, in terms of both like the physicalness of the dragons, like what traits are like embedded in the dragons, like just because he's a mudwing, so he can hold his breath underwater for an hour. She's a sea wing, so she can like flash this like these like bioluminescent scales to like communicate underwater. But also that sort of fit into the like, what do we get from our parents versus like what is like natural to us, like sort of like what do we choose for ourselves? How do we like make our own destiny despite what other people are expecting of us? So it all kind of fit together, and I was very excited about that. But yeah, so mostly I was thinking about the habitats and like what kinds of dragons would live in each of those places. And then that kind of, when I got to the Lost Continent, which is the other one across the sea, I started thinking about like what else could inspire a dragon, and that's how I got into like the insect inspired ones, which was sort of going off in a whole other direction, but it was really fun fun and terrifying to watch those documentaries. But it's really been fascinating watching the art team at the show working on it, because suddenly there's all these other people thinking about my dragons, and like these habitats and what everything will look like, that like usually it's just me by myself, and to have like a whole bunch of other people to talk to about it and know that they're like thinking about it and coming up with all these amazing little details, it's just been the most like magical thing.
It's
watching
great
all
to
that
see
come to life.
Teams of people and everyone like really respecting and researching the books to create a foundation in what Tui has created. So there's not a reinvention of these dragons. It's very loyal to what the foundation of what she's created, but then people are taking that to the next level and really looking at all the minutia about these dragons and how to take them into, you know, the third dimension, so to speak, and to see the habits and the affectations and the movement. Something very important in design is the silhouette of a character, so that they're all very distinctive, and the movement of a character. Not every human walks the same or moves the same, and it's such a window to personality and a window to and the anatomy and history. So that's been really interesting to see, and the kind of inventions that have come up would be something along the realm of, well, you know, the sea wings of course, there can be good flyers. They may not be as adept at sky wings. However, they may tend to try to like surf more on a wind current. They're a little more comfortable with that than the traditional flapping that we would see, you know, from maybe another species with larger wings. And they may tend to have more of like a stingray kind of a shape to the wing as opposed to a traditional wing, et cetera, et cetera. And it's just, again, like, I think artists love when they can really feel like they're not just adapting from Tui's sandbox, they're playing in her sandbox, they're with her toys and able to like lend their imaginations to what she created. And so when you say that you like to create a story that is accessible to children to kind of build in and put their world and their characters together based on, you know, like a role-playing game almost. It extends to these adult artists, and you know, everyone's a kid at heart who just wants to play this game.
It must be really neat seeing how various artists interpret your descriptions of the physical characteristics, the gait, even the walk of the dragons, just seeing how they, what they make of that. So that must be, I don't know, really fascinating on your end, Tui.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I have always loved the covers that Joy does. Joy, the cover artist, and she just does these amazing dragons. I feel like they get even more beautiful with each book, each cover. I'm like, this one's my favorite until the next one comes along. And then I would also say, like, a lot of children, like at events, or teenagers and young adults, would come to me with their art interpretations as well. And I love seeing that, like the different ways you can do dragons. Is and then so that this is just like this, but like at a level of like I feel like the animators, the artists on the show have been like really thinking about how they're each influenced by the different animals and how they will move in the space, which is something like I feel like I could get away with not doing too much as I was writing it, because I was like, but what are they feeling?
Yes, right.
Why don't I just focus on how the dragons like are having emotions right now? But now it's like we'll get to see it all. We'll get to see just how, and it's just so detailed and amazing. I'm like just really over the moon. Like every piece of art I see, I'm like, what? You're so cool.
I was going to say, I know the last time we had talked, at least Dan, Betty, and myself, since we have so many reptiles at our disposal here at the zoo, if you, while you're creating, while you're producing, whatever, animating especially, if you need any special movements of a reptile, now you've got Everest, so I'm sure you can base a lot of movements of like the back leg of a dragon, you know, taking off or whatever. But if there's any specific angles you need of different species, or like how a tegu's tongue flicks when they smell, if that's something you're going to incorporate, or even down to the nitty-gritty details like that, I'm happy, and everyone here at Snake Discovery is happy to record those for you. In fact, we wouldn't mind if that ends up happening, and you might have all that covered by now anyway, who knows, but if that ends up happening and you do want certain shots, or if you want certain sound effects of nails scraping, granted that might be hard to just take a nail scraping sound of an actual lizard, you might want something that's more of a powerful noise to use as a dragon anyway, but we wouldn't mind making a video about that, like how we record certain movements and sound effects for the Wings of Fire series.
Wonderful, because you want the DNA in there, you want something that's based in a reality, even in the constructed sounds, like in movies like, you know, Jurassic Park or what have you, like there's always some organic element, there's always some baseline animal or a relationship with a sound from nature, because without that things feel very false, and also because it inspires. So on some level, yes, we would fully take advantage of that, to be able to have reference material to work off of. That's what we all need in any artistic form, or even in non-artistic. You know, the research is everything. On some level, we may have some things we know to ask for, and then there may be many things that we don't even know to ask. And someone like yourself can just say, you may want to consider this, take a look at this, this is rather fascinating. And then people are like, oh, we didn't even know that was, you know, something that we should consider. And then we can just show it to artists and inspire them. So we can talk about that. It would be really wonderful, and a great way to also be able to interact on the project. We're at a phase right now where we're not yet into, you know, animation takes a very long time, but we are starting to talk about movement and a great deal, and we're starting to figure out how the characters will begin to actually like move in space with one another. So it's a great time to actually be looking at stuff like that.
Yeah, and you might be able to, if there's something you're looking for, you might be able to just Google it or just look it up on YouTube anyway. But if there are any certain instances, I suppose, like our alligator, the way she opens her, or she closes her nictitating membrane, her second eyelid underwater, say if Tsunami has something like that when she's swimming underwater, it's those weird things that like, oh, that's an adaptation that you might want to incorporate. If you think of any, that is, then yeah, feel free to reach out.
Thank you. Yeah, those are absolutely the details that will bring it to life in the most like
and remember you're dealing with
uncanny way.
filmatographers here who know how to capture the tongue flicks of newborn garter snakes. So
That's so cute.
We found another garter in the zoo, by the way. So our garter recently gave birth in the zoo to, so we thought 20 babies. And then 2 days ago, a little girl came up to me. She goes, you know, there's a baby garter in the tunnel underneath the alligator enclosure. I'm like, what? And sure enough, there's this teeny little head poking out of a crack. And we managed to get it out and kind of lure it out with a worm. So yeah,
my gosh.
Always fun. Sorry, kind of derailed there, but
That's hilarious.
Awesome. That's amazing that she noticed it.
I know. Yeah, I would have missed it.
Humans are weird. We took a vote, and humans are weird. I have the data. 2 books in a series of human absurdity. Go check out these short story collections. What will our little green friends think of us when we finally do make it to space? Find out the answer in 2 books of human absurdity. Humans Are Weird, We Took a Vote, and Humans Are Weird, I Have the Data. Available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, and Google Play.